Hello everyone. I thought I'd talk about fencing today. I've been in full fencing mode. I've been cutting for customers and cutting for myself. I wanted to show you a little bit about what I've got going on here at our property and go over charring some of the wood that I'm doing for the fence. You can see here what I'm doing with a 3-rail fence, charring it with a propane torch to get that burned look, the black on it. Here you can see what I've got going on. When we bought the property, the fence was already at this location, but I had to redo it. It was falling over, whatever. So I wanted this particular look. So I cut the material on the sawmill, charred it, and put it right back where it was at. But as it turns out, the road turned slightly to the left, so that kind of put my fence off a little bit when I cleared the other land down at the far end. We'll go down there in a minute. But I'm having to move several posts over to try and catch back up with the correct distance off the pavement. You can see where I've drilled a few holes there, so I'm just going to move a few of these posts back to give me the proper distance off the edge of the pavement. You can see I've already started putting posts in on the lower side down there. You can see here where I've pre-drilled these holes. We had a big rainstorm come in, so everything's filled up with water. I'd hoped to get all the posts in, but just couldn't make it before the rain started. But this fence will move over it and align with the fence posts that I've got on this side, and I've tapered it back a little bit more at the bottom down there near the retention pond that I've put in place. So it'll kind of follow a little bit closer to the road than what it was originally. When we bought the property, this area was just all trees, a lot of privet. We have a lot of outcroppings of limestone in the area. Some coyotes had made themselves a den in this area because the woods were so thick. They found a little cubby hole inside the rock, and so I let the coyote pups raise up and then did away with everything. This past summer got it all cleared. As I've mentioned, we're going to be building some log cabins. That's what I've cut this new driveway in for, and cleared this land, put in the retention pond to keep all this drainage off my driveway. We're going to be building a couple of rental cabins up on that hill that you see up top up there. We'll walk up there in a second and rent those out. And it's actually the reason that I bought the sawmill to begin with. We're going to be building a cabin for ourselves back at the back, 20 acres or so. You can see the spillway that I've got here for the culvert pipe that this pond drains into. I had to work with the level of the ditch in front, and I just didn't have enough fall to get out there from this point. So what I had to do is just put the culvert pipe in level, pretty much level, and then I built that spillway concrete wall in front of it and brought the pond level up to where it's at now. It just didn't look right, so it's only about 4 feet deep at this end. I ran into a lot of bedrock, the limestone bedrock, so I had to deal with that. But anyway, we got it going here, got the driveway in. I finally got my soil survey back for a septic system. I had a couple of hiccups with that, but we've got that under control now. This is a build site where we're going to be building the first cabin. I'm going to just do a small 23 by 30, 690 square feet. You can see the pins where I've got it kind of roughed out here. I've got these rock to deal with though. That's my next thing. Me and Precious are going to come up here with the stump grapple and see if we can pry some of these up. Most of them have been surface stone, but then you see some of this big bedrock. I'm trying to get the building located where I missed that. So that's going to be my next endeavor here to get started on once I get the permit. But I plan on doing a small A-frame back over in the corner back over there after I get this one done. And I'll show you the logs that I'm gonna be cutting on the sawmill. I plan on doing a full video on the construction of the cabin. It'll be in several parts, but it ought to be pretty interesting. This is the style of log that I've chosen to use, just rectangular Appalachian style. We're going to do dovetail corners, but you can see the charring that I have done lightly on the surface. This end does not have any charring. You can see the hand-hewed effect that I put in there. We'll talk about that in a second, but we just did these for colors to see what we like. This lighter log here is the interior side of what we're going to do. So we're lightly charring it and then coming back spraying it with golden oak stain. For the outside of the cabin, we're going to do the charring and a slate color stain, so it'll look like it's been there for a long time. You can see where the charring stopped there. We were just trying the different colors to see what effect we liked on it. But these are going to go together with an 1.5 inch chink groove. And what I chose to do, these are going to be 6.5 inches wide and 10 5/8 tall. ICC 400 regulations or log wall is not to be any less thickness than 6 inches. So I'm going to make my chink board, which will set inside a dado that I do down both sides of each log. It'll set down in here 1/8 inch and here 1/8 inch and have a 1/2 inch exposed between them. And I'll go over that with the synthetic chinking material. Probably do a gray on the outside. I don't know, we'll probably do the same on the inside. We'll just have to see. But this hand-hewed effect I've done with a Festool sculpting planer. It's a really nice tool. I'll show you that. What this planer has is an arched blade. I don't know if you can tell that in the video, but it arches slightly higher in the center. And this planer also has depth control, like a throttle. So as you're moving, you can adjust the depth up and down. And that's how you get the ripple effect, or the hand hewed. And I've just played with it on this log just to see. You can see that I went in a straight line down through here, and I don't particularly like that. So I started crossing it up and working the log like that. I think it gives it a little bit better look. Looks a little more authentic and not such straight lines in the hewing. Talking a little bit about the charring that I've done. This is just a little shed over my lawnmowers that I did last year, and I just barely charred this wood with a torch to give it that old effect. Now, one thing I found out with this as well is that the carpenter bees do not fool with this stuff. So they don't even land on it. They don't even fly around it, as a matter of fact. And all this wood was pretty much green when I cut it. It may have been down a week, but everything is done well. I had to go, I think it's 19.5 feet on this carrier beam. So I had to cut a particular tree down just to get it. I didn't have any that long, but got it and the ledger board up top there out of one tree, long tree. But it gives it a nice look. And there again, the carpenter bees don't fool with it, because I mean, they really tear up our porch. This regular pressure treated material, the carpenter bees just go after it just nonstop. We have 20 or 30 around here usually. I'm surprised they're not out now. But we have the little bee catchers, and they stay just about full after a couple of weeks. So I thought I'd do a little demonstration here of my burning techniques for this lightly burned and then really burning the fence post and 1x6s that I'm going to be putting on the fence out front. But this is a simple burner rig that you can purchase. I got this one at Harbor Freight. I think it was $35, and you just get your own propane tank hooked to it. and just use it. This one actually came with an igniter, which I highly recommend. That little button up there is the igniter. That way if the flame goes out, you can just kick it back on. So I'm gonna film this and then show the two different techniques. Now this is just a piece of pine, a dry piece of pine that I had left over, I think 4x6, from some of the work that I've been doing, and I'll go over a couple of different things that I'm going to do in showing what I do and getting these different looks that I'm going after. Now on this torch, I will say that this valve is how you open and start the gas flow, so then you just push the igniter there to get the flame going. But then you have the throttle lever here where you can just squeeze it and really get the flame going. But what I have found better is just to control the gas flow from this valve. So I can just turn it up to whatever level I think will work. And notice that I'm staying away from this piece of wood a good bit. And I'm just barely going over it until I see the look that I want, and then I just move with it. And I'll stay there until I start getting that burn, because it's got to dry what little bit's on the surface. See the knot there, it takes a little bit more to get it burned in. And I'll come down the edge, but I'm still staying away from it. A little light through there, so you just burn until you get the effect that you want. So now I'm going to completely burn this as if I were using it for the fence. I'm just going to crank it up a little bit and just stay with it. You just look at that grain until it turns black, and notice how far I'm staying away from it. That's very important. If you get up too close to it, you can't really control it. It'll get away from you real quick. Stay with that grain until it turns black, and then I move it. So I'm a good 8-10 inches away from it. And I'm just getting it to where it's completely black. Then when you look at it, you can tell where you might have a light spot or two, and see how that knot is? So I'll just stay with it for a little bit. It may ignite the wood, but you can see that knot finally starts turning dark. See, it's ignited the wood, but that, oops, turned the wrong way. But that knot is completely blacked out now. Now you will get this all over you, because it's just soot that is built up on the surface. But in doing the light finish that I had done on my little shed that I've got over the lawnmowers, you don't really get so much of that build-up look, build-up soot, because you're just going for this slight look on the wood. That's some of the heaviest that I did right there. And it's been about a year and a half, and I'm still getting a little bit of soot off there. See that? So you just want to stay light with it. But I really didn't worry about this. It was just the look that I was going for. So there you have it. I wanted to include a little bit of this charring technique that I've done. Hopefully that'll help people doing fence, little projects like this. Seeing what I'm gonna do on my cabin logs, maybe help people come up with a way that they can get the look that they might be after. So now let's get to a little bit of sawmill maintenance. Well, I've got the cover off, and I've marked center as best I can measure to the center of the belt here. Put a line with a piece of chalk. So I'm taking a framing square and putting it in and checking the tension. I'm set at 18 pounds, and I'm looking for 7/16 deflection. And that's about what I've got. So what I'm gonna do now is put the cover back on and just take off the small inspection port that they offer with it. Here you can see where I marked the belt, in the center between the pulleys with a piece of chalk. So it's exposed right there at that opening. So you're real close. You're within an inch of the center of that belt as best I could get up in there to get that center dimension. So now with the cover back on, I've got access to the belt through this small port. And when I touch the belt, I see that I've got about 7/16 half inch down to this 18-pound O-ring marker that I've got there. So when I push that in, I should be even with this outside face or real close. So I push that in and I'm real close. I'm a little bit inside, maybe the width of that O-ring. So it indicates I'm a little bit loose. So that's just a good way of checking it. It's not described that way in my book, so I thought I would share that with you. So this makes it a little bit quicker than taking the whole cover off and actually getting the center point. Brutus, he's always got to be in charge of the sawdust pile. I think sometimes he just entices her to come up there and she'll want to play with him or try and take over, but he just wants to wrestle. They play all the time. They have a good time with it. I've got to where I let them back in at the sawmill a little bit more since their hair lip duck episode. They've been hanging around pretty good, but I still have to keep an eye on them. Call them up every now and then to make sure they're not running off through the woods trying to get out. They have a good time with one another. It's good to see them playing. Back up here at the sawmill, they were locked out for a good month or so, but they enjoy coming up here and spend a little time with me. They kind of pick at one another. You can see Brutus, he just goes with the flow and kind of wanders off. I think that's where he's going now. You can see him looking at me. I'm gonna go over here and check things out. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, maybe learned a little something. I appreciate you watching. Any comments are welcome. I always enjoy them. So until the next video, you guys take care and be safe.